There it goes. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Ink, the talk show that takes you behind the book to meet the authors and professionals in the publishing industry. Today, we are joined by authors in training. We're going to do some talk today about just general publishing questions. If you're listening or watching today, please feel free to use that chat and ask us some questions while we're live. And let's go ahead and introduce our guests. Take it away, authors in training. You guys pick whichever one you want to go first.
Well, you usually go first in our show.
Well, hi everyone, I'm Marissa.
And I'm Haley.
That's usually how we start our intro. Just we're from Authors in Training.
Yeah, I like
thank you for having us on your show.
They sound so happy. And Marissa, I'm looking at you, and you almost have like a vampire smile going on with the dark red lipstick. I'm like, ah. And plus you've got the supernatural going on behind you there too. Very cool.
Yep.
So
actually, that's a pretty accurate description of Marissa, a vampire.
So you guys have your own podcast, the Authors in Training podcast. Tell us a little bit about your show.
Well, we talk about, books and writing and storytelling. We use the podcast to try to give information out to people, like other writers. Like we've had an episode on different types of editing, and we specifically talked about line editing because we realized not as many people know about it. And at least we didn't, and no one taught it to us, and we just had to find it out on our own. And it's such a specific type of editing that people sometimes get it confused. And so that's kind of what we wanted to do on one aspect of the podcast. We want to educate. And on the other hand, we also do games where we talk about writing exercises, and we do it on the podcast and we read you our work because we want to also have fun and entertain.
How did you guys get started with this?
Actually, that was my dad. So my dad one day came up to us and he's like, "Hey, Haley, do you also want to just start a podcast?" And we're like, "Sure." And he had a plan of making a series of different podcasts with different kind of art forms all under one name. I don't know how that part is working, but we started ours that we just called Authors in Training. And then we kind of just took over from there.
And so explain the name. It's not like we're authors in training. We're kind of saying that you're always learning in this field because everything's rapidly evolving. Mm-hmm. So, and you can always learn new things. So everyone's kind of in training.
And it kind of brings people together. So no one can be like, you're a beginner and I'm an expert, so I'm above you. Or, someone just thinks they're below someone else. It's just, brings everyone together and puts everyone on the same playing field.
That's an excellent point because you are always learning. It doesn't matter if you're publishing your first novel or if you're publishing your 21st novel. There's always something new to learn in the business, and especially in the marketing side of it, everything is constantly evolving, and you have to maintain and keep up with what's going on. Otherwise, you're going to fall behind.
And Katie, what novel are you on now?
I lost count a while ago. It's
Say 2021 doesn't sound so far off the mark for you.
No, it doesn't. Actually, if you count all the novellas and everything, I think I'm above that number.
Oh gosh, that's amazing.
And it's a lot of hard work, but I've been doing this though for 10 years, the actual publishing. I've been writing for a long time, but I started publishing actually almost 10 years. Back in 2009 was when I was preparing to publish my first novel.
Wow.
So, and it's been a constant learning game. Every time I think I've got a grip on it, there's something new I have to learn, or there's a new trick or a new tweak to do what I've been doing, Now,
Katie, what is going on with your audio today? Why do you sound different? I
don't know.
You sound different than you normally do here. I wonder if it's just because you're in a different room from your usual writing studio.
Am I sounding far away, like in a cave? Should I move the mic?
A little bit. Well, your voice doesn't have that normal robust quality to it that we've come to know and love from Salad Ass.
From Salad Ass.
So you two, are you writing, or have you written a book together?
We're currently writing our we plan to be our debut novel, The Crimson Ace, and it's been an experience.
Okay. Crimson A's, like just A?
No, Ace. Ace, like the corn. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what is it about?
I knew you were going to pin this on me.
Yeah.
We try to take turns. We get asked this a lot. So it's about Ashton Rogues. It's a 3 point of view book, but he's the main character. And he has kind of been brought to Dwalin for a new job as the captain of the guard. But as he's kind of going through things, he starts to realize that who he thought was, I don't know how to describe this without sounding cliche.
I know, but just go. Just get it
out. He starts to realize the secrets of the capital and kind of figuring out who is actually the bad guy and, you know, what side should he be on, but he's got a strict moral code that's kind of fighting against him. And it's a wild ride from start to finish.
His first assignment is to find the White Rabbit, who is an informant that the palace, well, everyone really uses, but she stole information from the palace, like top secret information, and so he's sent to find her and capture her.
Even though he's only the captain, he's told to be a detective, which he's not very happy about. That I know there's a difference between the two jobs.
Yep.
The other two characters is Phasma Nebulum. She's a political advisor. I write Phasma and Ashton, and then she writes Will Fedora, who's a hat maker and rebel leader of the Tea Party.
So you actually are separating your characters and how you write them. Do you have a master outline that you're using, or how are you doing this?
We have one outline that we follow. We made it together, and then depending on which character's point of view it is, depends on who like writes it. And our characters, we kind of split it in a way that it forced that characters that interact a lot, he gets one and I get the other, so that we have to, you know, work together to write the chapters together. But we write it in like a role-playing format, and then that person takes it and writes it in a novel format. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
Okay, I actually like that, because a lot of who is squeaking? Somebody's squeaking. I wonder if that's me. I'm not squeaking, am I? I don't think I'm squeaking. But yeah, the RPG format is actually kind of a cool way to do it, because really the whole thing is telling a story, even when you're playing the role-playing games. So that's kind of a cool way to look at it and outline the whole process. Now, do you have a master Google document that you guys are writing on? Is that how you're doing it, or?
Yeah, Google Docs is hands down the best way to do it if you are co-writing with someone, because it kind of tracks what you're doing, what they're doing, and you can be on the same document at the same time. And it's probably the best equipment I've used. I've been on one other site where you could be on there at the same time, but it was so spotty and it lagged so heavily, even with good connection, that Google Docs is just the way to go. Mm-hmm. Typically, when we outline, though, we kind of go through what we call the character outline, since it is multiple POVs. And we see what they're doing, and then we just kind of merge it all together into one story to see where things are happening and kind of where they fall. And that kind of helps dictate which character goes like first. And it's not like rotation. It's kind of like who needs to, like whatever part of the story needs to happen next, and just kind of falls there. Okay.
You know, I just started a co-writing process, or a project with my editor, Jessica West, that I'm really excited about, and it'll be something that we're writing over the next year. And we're using Google Docs, and we have two sheets. We have the, you know, kind of the story idea sheet, and then the actual story document. And so on the story idea sheet, there's so many comments on it. I can it's ridiculous, because you know, you'll have a good idea and you want to put it on there, and then somebody else will reply to that, and then it's back and forth and back and forth. But I'm not much of a plotter, and we've had this pantser versus plotter conversation many times on this show. And plotting definitely has its advantages, and it's fun because you can really start to see where the story's going. But problem is, if you're like me, you never follow the damn thing. So but yeah, what we ended up doing is we had the story itself was an idea that my wife and I had come up with a couple years ago. She had it always ends up coming from her. She has these weird dreams that she'll tell me about, and we'll kind of develop a little story out of it. And so I had sent that to Jessica, and we had one page that had 4 main story points we wanted to get to. That, okay, you know, this is a good progression to follow. And beyond that, it's all just kind of like, okay, write what you will. And we haven't decided 100%, okay, you know, you're writing him, you're writing her, and this and that, but it's more of write what you feel you can write more strongly, write what you're most comfortable with, because I think that's how we're going to get the strongest writing. Anyhow, Katie, sorry, I already got off track there.
No, I like that advice. The show topic today was, you know, indie author questions, and story writing fills in that gap right there.
Well, and it's fun, you know. I have so many projects going on right now. I'm writing 10 different little stories, either novels or short stories, and it's funny, as this co-writing project is probably the one I'm most excited about, because it's kind of a departure from the normal for me, for what I'm supposed to be doing. It's a pleasant distraction, so that's a really cool thing.
Are you feeling weighed down by your editing and your contract work with the publisher that you signed on with?
The editing is definitely a weight, and I don't like the editing at all. In the way that the editing with this company works, Evolve Publishing, and they don't require us to do it this way, but my editor and I'm going through, because I know her guidelines that she wants me to stick with and that the publisher wants for my manuscripts. And so I'm going through before she does and trying to make as many changes as I can to make her life easier. That way it's not taking her months and months to get a manuscript back, because she has a lot of other clients. So I'm going through and making these changes, and then she's going through on top of that and making more changes. So it's just, it has a lot of weight, and it definitely slows down the creative process. But now I'm going back into creative mode, where I just sent back some edits, and so now I've got another week or two where I can actually write, which is fantastic, before the edits come back, and I'll be back in that game. So
it's a point you should make that most authors, the writing part is the easy part of the business, and that's all encompassing. Because once you're done with the writing, there's revisions, there's editing, there's production, there's marketing. There's so many more steps that are so much harder and, you know, frankly, boring compared to that creative process of just writing and enjoying the characters and enjoying the story that you're creating.
Oh yeah, the writing part's the fun part. That's why we're doing all of it. We don't get into this because we say, yeah, I would like to spend 9 months editing this novel. That's not why we do it. We do it because we want to create. You two are looking at each other kind of crazy out there. Does one of you love editing? What's happening here?
Okay, well, actually, writing for me personally is kind of the hardest part. The easiest part to me is actually like the before stuff, like the outlining and creating the characters. But once we have all that set up, it's like, okay, now it's time to write. I'm like, can I skip to the editing? Can I just already have the stuff on the paper so I can just work on that?
She's an editor, and I'm over here just like, I don't want to edit anything. Yeah. Do I have to? I will.
That could be a good partnership then. she does all the editing work, and that makes your life a lot easier.
Yes, it does. Because anything I write, I just shoot it to her, and she's like, "Oh, thank God, I don't have to write it. I can just read and make all these really hard and long comments."
Yeah, I'm tough on her. Whenever I read through, I always like comment stuff. I make sure to add like good stuff too. Like, this was funny,
which I appreciate.
But after I look at something, it's just a wall of comments.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny that you say that, because, and this is a good lesson for anyone out there who is helping a friend to edit their manuscript or beta reading for a friend who is an author. Always make sure you say nice shit too, okay? Because we're not that tough, okay? We're tough to a certain point, but yeah. So I have I carefully select my beta readers because I want really good input from them, but then I also like the beta readers who are like, once a page, be like, oh yeah, I really liked this scene, but there's just a sea of red marks above that. It's like, okay, well, you got to keep it positive now and again, so that's good.
We put our book through beta readers somewhat recently, and we had that person that was just all like things we need to fix. And at some point, he's like, "Oh wait, I should probably put some good things that I like too, shouldn't I?" And it's already like over halfway through the book.
I totally missed that last 30 seconds, Katie. Were you able to hear all that?
I caught it.
Okay, good. I froze over here, and I'm like, what's happening?
Oh no, are you glitching over there?
I must be. Everybody just froze with awkward facial poses.
Oh, you got to screenshot that when it happens. Blackmail. Oh, wait, why am I giving you ideas?
I was just thinking, like, don't tell him that.
So, Katie, what about you and your editing? What are you doing right now? You've got some editing drama going on?
Well, I'm on book 2, which I've had done for a while. So I'm waiting for my editor to get back to me. She's been really, really busy. So she hasn't had as much time as she normally would have for me. So the editing is taking longer. And she sent me back sections. And we've worked together for almost since the beginning. And so we know each other's style. And normally the editing doesn't
Since the
take that
beginning
long.
of
Like, I just
time
kind
when
of
you
accept
first
all of
got
her
into
notes. What'd you say, Jason?
Since the beginning of time when you first began writing, right?
Back when I was chiseling on stone tablets.
That's right.
Yeah. So this time though, her notes have been more extensive, and she's pointing out things that normally your editor, tells you the rules if you break one. And we've worked together for so long that I know some of these rules and I'm breaking them on purpose, but she's recorrecting me and I'm like, no, I did this on purpose. So it's taken me a lot longer to go through. I'm not just blindly accepting everything because we know each other. And I know her editing notes are always spot on. Now I'm really slogging through each chapter to make sure that the changes that were made are how I want them to be, and recorrecting things obviously that she's noted.
But at the same time, you hire a professional editor for a reason, and if she's recorrecting you on something that you're still doing, who's got to? I mean, when do we say, okay, I want it this way, but my professional editor wants it the other way? When do we decide? I mean, when do we kill our darlings and say, okay, I go with my editor, versus when do we just follow our own creative instinct?
Well, I think you have to reach a point where you know the difference. That old adage, you have to know the rules to break the rules. And if you know them and you're knowingly breaking them for a specific reason, I think that's okay. When you're just blindly doing what you want because you think it sounds good, but you don't know the rules behind it, then yeah, you definitely listen to your editor. But always keep that open line of communication too. I'll go back and note where she's corrected something and say, I did this on purpose. So when she gets my notes back, she understands what I'm doing.
Okay. Now, Haley and Marissa, you guys, you're nearly done with your book. Is that right? Or I missed that 30 seconds when you guys are still talking about it.
Oh, we were just talking about like how we were doing beta reading not too long ago. Well, we weren't doing it. We had beta readers, and one of them would just only put the things we need to fix, and then over halfway through the book, he's like, "Oh yeah, I should probably put stuff I like too." But where we're at now is we're editing the things the beta readers wanted us to fix, and we also realized a plot point in our book that had to do a little re-outlining. But yeah, so once we're doing that, we're gonna do line editing, and then it's actually a question we wanted to ask because Katie mentioned it in one of her what's it called? Not a lecture.
Seminar?
Yeah, her seminar on independent publishing, and it was about how you can use beta readers kind of I guess as a substitute for developmental editors. And we actually wanted to ask you, Jason, on what you thought, and I guess Katie, if you have any other things you have to say about that, because we have a budget kind of small, and we're debating whether we should save up, take more time to save up more money to get a developmental editor, or if we should find some beta readers instead, so then we don't have to wait as long and we can just pay for the copy editor.
Let me preface that before you answer it. The reason I said you can use your beta readers as your developmental editing portion is if you break down the editing chain, you have your developmental editors, you have your copy and your line editors, and oftentimes they're both the same person. And then you have your proofreader. So there's 3 different levels of editing. Your developmental editor is the one that helps you find plot holes, the one that helps you focus on whether or not your characters sound good, whether they're represented accurately, whether they're believable. And that's where I said you use your beta readers as that developmental editing step. Because if your beta readers aren't understanding something, or if your beta readers are pointing out plot holes, they're helping you to develop that story like the editor would. And a developmental editor, especially a freelance one, is going to be extremely expensive compared to a line or copy editor. So if you can get that step out of the way and have something cleaner to deliver to the line editor or your copy editor, you're going to actually save money in the long run.
Definitely. And another thing a developmental editor is going to do is going to help your story flow better. So not only are we looking for plot holes and what your characters look and sound like and how robust your characters are, but does the story flow? You know, is it choppy from one chapter to the next? Does it have a nice smooth arc where they're interested and held in suspense the whole time? But I actually, and Katie, I have not watched your seminar, but I trust that you always give good advice to our young authors. And I think that using beta readers as a kind of developmental tool is a really good idea. The key is, though, that you have to have exceptional beta readers. You need to be selective about your beta readers. You need people that read just a shitload of books. People who absolutely love reading fiction, or if you're nonfiction authors that love reading nonfiction, because they're going to be able to honestly tell you, yeah, you know, I got through chapters 1 through 4, and then chapter 5 I just died. It took me 3 weeks to get through chapter 5, and now chapter 6 it's good again. And you need to hear those things because it's gonna point out flaws to you in your storytelling, or if you're co-authoring, it's gonna point out where there was a definite change in voice here, and we need to fix it. But overall, I think beta readers are great for just telling you if the story is enjoyable. And really, when it comes right down to it, that's what matters, you know. And we see it in big mass market paperbacks that have plenty of mistakes in it. You know, the big name authors make mistakes all the time, and sometimes they don't get caught. But if the story is enjoyable, people still buy it, and then people tell their friends about it, and they tell their friends about it, and that's what you want. So having good beta readers is very important. My beta readers range from people that I've worked with to doctors and surgeons that I've met and kept communications with, and I've always found that if you meet someone interesting, write them down, add them as a contact, whatever you need to do, and then start keeping in contact with them. That way, one day you can drop that bomb on them. Hey, so book, and I need help with it. And I think that will be really useful. But yeah, you know, developmental editors are expensive, Katie. It's crazy. And then, I mean, all editing is kind of expensive, but the line editing, the copy editing, you've got to do it. That's not something you can ever do yourself. And don't have friends do it, because
oh god, no,
it's a nightmare. I am re-editing my first novel right now. It was bought by my publisher, and going back through it now, even after it went through half a dozen editors back in the day when I first wrote it, and I was using friends and relatives who were teachers and things like that, and it's a mess. And back then it looked perfect. I mean, it went through so many times. I was like, there's no way I could possibly improve this. And now I'm like, how did I let this get through? I don't get it. So don't skimp on editors. Any of you out there, don't skimp on editors. It's super important.
Let me add another note too about using your beta readers wisely. A lot of times, if you pick somebody who's just reading the story and giving you general feedback, it's not as helpful as if you guide them towards the answers you want. And you can do this in one of two ways. You can either have questionnaires that you ask them to fill out about the story, and you ask them very specific leading questions. Or what I've adopted lately is I only send sections at a time. And for instance, in my last book series that I'm writing, there's very much an air of mystery in this story. So as I'm sending these small sections, and I'm talking about maybe 10,000 words at a time. So it's very easy to read in a sitting. They can digest it really well. And I'll ask, okay, who do you think is the villain here? What do you think is happening? What do you think is going on in this character's head? And I'll ask them those leading questions and get the answer before I send them the next section. And that also gives me an idea as I'm writing the mystery, whether or not I'm on the right trail, keeping the villain in secret.
And I like that way you're doing it too, because by chopping the novel up into small parts for beta readers, you're also not overwhelming them as much. What I find is, because I've beta read for a lot of authors now, Katie included, and beta reading is oftentimes something that we will leave to the last minute as authors, and I think that's a really bad idea. And I've done it myself, but because you'll be excited, you're like, all right, I'm ready to hit go on this sucker right now, and you send it out to readers and be like, okay, it's getting published on the 31st and it's the 15th, and you know what? Some people don't just have all day to sit around and read and give you notes. So, break it up a little bit, like Katie was saying, or at least give them a couple weeks to get through your book, because Haley, you might read a book in 2 days and I might take 2 months. So if you're looking for those quality readers, just make sure you bear in mind that they're going to read at different paces. They're going to edit at different paces, and they're going to have different skill levels. So, if I'm asking, someone just for general story advice on what did you think of my story, I don't expect them to take a month to get back to me. But if I'm writing a medical thriller and I'm sending it off to my surgeon friend and saying, hey, I need some really fine details here, I know it's going to take her a long time for it to get back, and I've got to be patient. Otherwise, you're going to end up making mistakes and you're going to regret it down the road.
What do you guys think about paid beta readers? Because I remember on a Facebook group, someone asked about that, and people, they have like different ideas. Like some people are completely against, like on Fiverr, you can find beta readers there and they charge a fee and then you pay that and then they'll beta read for you.
Just like anything else, it's a service that's being offered, and it all depends on what you want to pay for. The publisher that I work for, it offers beta readers that can be paid if you're looking for a certain niche, if you're looking for a certain specialty. But by and large, I think that's a tough question. It really is. It is a service, and you are asking a lot of someone. You're asking them to dedicate their time and then use their expertise to critique you. And so, in a way, I don't think there's anything wrong with charging for beta reader service. And if you have the budget for it, maybe it is a good idea. I personally don't have the budget for it, so I rely on the really good people that beta read for me already. But I don't know, Katie, what do you think about that? Have you ever paid for beta readers?
No, and I think, if you're paying for editing, that's where your budget should be. You need to worry about the editing and get a professional to look at it. Beta reading is still at that developmental stage. So if you want more stringent opinions, maybe rather than paying for a beta reader, if you have the patience to do it, join writers groups and do their weekly critiques. I know the Henderson Writers Group out here, they meet, it's either bi-weekly or monthly, and they have reading sessions every time they have their meeting. And you can sign up, read your chapter, and you'll get a critique from everybody in the room.
And, you got to be careful with those writers groups too, though. Not that writers groups are bad. Not that the Henderson Writers Group is bad, because I don't know any of them. They might be wonderful. However, our last guest that we were talking to, remember Tim Chismar?
Yeah.
And he was chatting a little bit, very briefly, about this, how make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who are really in the know when you're in these writers groups, because if you have a group of 10 people that don't have any real publishing credentials, and don't have a lot of experience behind them, then the advice that you're getting from them might not be the best advice. You might get some good developmental ideas, but if you're going to be making real changes in your books, and you're doing it out of a writers group or even beta readers, like I said, make sure you've got good quality people that really know what they're talking about, because I don't know, mistakes happen, and it's really easy to hear an idea and say, oh yeah, that makes sense, let me do that. But it might not come from the right source. You might be taking editing advice from a graphic designer, and that's not going to end up that well. Anyhow, I'm not trying to down on writers groups, because I think they're fantastic. But and I was in one a couple years ago and realized after our first couple-hour meeting and everybody's reading and critiquing that no one in the group had ever been published before. They had no experience with it. So I left, and while I felt that, oh yeah, man, I got some cool advice, and I got to meet some neat people, I didn't know how much of the advice I could really take because they didn't have the experience to back it up. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. At UNLV, I'm almost done with my major, and because it's focusing in creative writing, you have to take 3 creative writing classes. And like the beginning one is good because everyone's kind of new, and you have a teacher who's published who leads you through it. But I would warn people with that as well. Like, still do it if you're in college and you want to take those classes and be under someone who's published, but you have to be careful because a lot of people don't read your story, and you get people who are just kind of like trying to look like they have and just kind of throwing out comments. And some students in there are really interesting. Let's go with that. And sometimes the teacher has a preference. I know I had one teacher was really dry and boring, and that's how he kind of wanted the stories to be, a lot of dry kind of maybe wit. Let's go with that. I'll be kind. And then I found out later that he did a lot of nonfiction, and I was just like, why did I take a teacher that was doing all this nonfiction, trying to help a lot of students that were doing a lot of fantasy? And he clearly did not like fantasy. He didn't like a lot of it, so it was really difficult to take what he said and kind of apply it. Yeah. But just kind of be warned when you take creative writing classes, you don't know the teacher and what they prefer, and they might put that into their stuff. That's happened before. And some of the fellow students aren't always happy to be there. And then you just get weird people.
Well, and what is it that you two told us at the beginning of the show? We're all still learning, right?
Yeah.
You have a different level of experience than I do, and Katie has a different level of experience than me. I've published 5 novels. Katie's published 20-some novels. You guys are working on your first novel. We all have different skill sets and different ideas and different strengths, and I think that a big part of being an author and working with other people is learning how to weigh them all and where they all fit into your story and to yourself and where you're going as a professional. There are some authors like myself. When I first started, all I wanted was to write one story. I wanted to write one book. I didn't have aspirations of being a professional or doing it full time, anything like that. So I didn't take a lot of advice on how to build a business and how to promote a book in a way that's going to rank and reach the New York Times bestseller list, anything like that, because it was just a personal goal. Write a story, write a book. And looking back, I was like, man, I should have been on the business side of this years ago now, because my business would be completely different. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot to be an author and juggle all of these different things. So, I think that budget and mental space plays a big part in what you're able to do. And if you have friends that are professionals in the field that are great with marketing or that are great with organization and all these other things, that utilizing their knowledge is super important. We have friends who are editors, friends who are artists, friends who are publicists, and I know that we draw on all of their strengths, not only when we're talking on the show, but when we're writing. We learn new things almost every week, don't we, Katie?
Absolutely.
New resources to try out, new techniques to try, new ways to host the show to make it more engaging. And you've always got to be open to learning. Don't ever close yourself off to it.
And that's one of the things that I advocate, especially when I do seminars and panels, is reach out to your community, be a part of the community and reach out to your community, because when you have a question, there's somebody out there with the answer. When you need help with something, there's somebody out there who can, if not help you, point you in the right direction to get the help that you need.
And if you have a problem, I'll solve it. Yeah. You all know what I was talking about. That's right. Oh, sorry. Okay, so we wanted to talk a little bit about indie authoring and kind of newbie questions, getting into publishing and writing, and we've been doing that a little bit. What other kind of questions should we talk about tonight?
Well, I know you girls had some questions already in mind. Do you have any other ones that you want to cover before we jump off topic again?
Okay, one thing is I've heard the term indie publishing and self-publishing kind of used interchangeably, but is there actually a difference between the two?
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah, and someone who is self-published is anyone who uses Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP. and there are many authors that use it, and then small press publishers a lot of times will use KDP. And so I think that they would all be considered self-publishing, but some of them are companies and some of them are individuals. So I consider them kind of one and the same. Indie is you're doing it independently. And I work with a small press publisher, and so I would consider that more of a hybrid type publishing, because you're using a governing body, a publishing house. However, they're still publishing it independently through Kindle Direct Publishing. So this, I don't know, Katie, what do you think? You're more the business side of things. Do you have a?
I use them interchangeably. I look at it as DIY publishing, because you are responsible, whether or not you're actually doing the work yourself, you're responsible for the end product. Your name is on that front cover. So no matter who you contract out for editing or cover art or what have you, it's still your name on the front cover. And so if you are doing it yourself or managing it yourself, it's self-publishing. It's independent publishing.
Katie, you look like you're melting.
That doesn't sound good.
How hot is it there in Vegas?
Oh, we're in the triple digits.
Really hot.
I don't know why anyone was out gay at this point.
I think everyone in Vegas are just vampires. Just only come out.
Seriously, we don't leave the house till after 7 p.m. when we take the kids out to go to the park.
Yeah.
It's just too hot.
Killer. Especially at night, it's like, oh, good, it's finally 90.
Yeah.
Walk the dog till the sun sets, and I am not getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to walk him. So he has to wait till the end of the day.
Now, Katie, how long before we hit go on a book, before we publish it, do we want to start marketing that book? How long do we want to start teasing it before we finally hit that publish button?
The realistic number, if you can, is to start 6 months before the book is out.
Oh, for the love of God, Katie, that's ridiculous. Come on now.
Building
Be realistic here.
Start that far out. However, 3 months to 1 month, those are okay windows to start marketing. But really, the longer tail you give your marketing campaign, the better you're going to have a result on.
Do you remember Dominion Rising box set that came out a few months back? Maybe it was last year now.
Sounds familiar.
Dominion Rising was it had like 21 novels in it, and it was all sci-fi stuff. And they carefully charted how they went through the marketing process, and they marketed for, I remember seeing it like 6 months beforehand, 7 months beforehand. I was seeing teasers, and they were always awesome teasers. The badass original art on every post. And it built up, and they hit the New York Times bestseller list. And then they released this really long blog detailing exactly how they did it, because they knew they were going to rank. They knew they were going to hit it because they had excellent marketing people. And so I'll have to look up that blog post and attach it to this video, because that would be a really cool resource. And I read a little bit of it, and I was like, holy crap! I mean, they had a whole team of people working together on this set. But if your goal is to hit one of those bestseller lists, then you've really got to be doing it many months ahead of time and pouring just a lot of money into marketing. But afterwards, you are a USA Today bestselling author or a New York Times bestselling author. And that's a title you can use on every one of your books. And I think that does carry a good amount of clout, doesn't it, Katie?
It does. There's that whole perception of importance, whether you have the orange flag on a new release or whether you've hit a list, something that you can define. I got this for my book. People perceive it differently than just, hey, I put out a book. Mm-hmm. So if you can hit something, even small achievements can be perception altering and make people take a closer look at your book.
Yeah, for sure. And I will admit that I do it too. I'm not an elitist by any means, but when I'm scrolling through books on Amazon, I will look to see if they've got a lot of awards, or if they've got that little orange flag saying that they're a Amazon bestseller. And I like that, because the more popular something is, a lot of times I'm going to enjoy it more. Maybe that's bad. Yeah. No, that's not a good indie approach to things.
But it is the nature of people, though. You have to understand that a lot of people want to know that something's good before they buy it or before they read it. So if it's got some kind of stamp of approval, people are that much more likely to try it. That's why reviews are so important. Having a lot of good reviews on a book is generally the sign that they're going to enjoy it, so they will take a chance on it, as opposed to a book that might be written by a wonderful author that's brand new, that doesn't have any reviews. There might be a little iffy about it.
I think it takes the place of like what traditionally publishing does for you, because when you know something has been traditionally published, you know that it's been through and like looked at by an agent and then by, you know, editors and like a publisher.
And then sold to the bookstore. It has all these stamps.
Yeah, so you know that like other people have gone through it and says that, you know, this book is good, so you trust it more. But self-publishing, you don't have all that. So having like that accomplishment, like having it on a list or having those reviews kind of just makes up for it too.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that my publisher does a lot of, Katie, is submitting books for awards at all sorts of different awards programs. And I don't know them all. I don't want to know them all because it's way too much info for my tiny brain to process. So thank God they do that for me. But that's kind of the thinking behind it is, you know, when you win awards, when you have that little gold seal on your book cover, people will look twice, or at least give it a longer look when they see it that first time. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that I've actually been looking at lately is what awards are available to independent authors to sign up for, and also what awards are actually legitimate. Because if you just Google, say, book awards, there's a ton of awards out there, and most all of them have some kind of an entrance fee. Then you have to look at, okay, I understand some can have an entrance fee and still be legit. What are you actually getting if you win? What is the prize value? Is it something worthwhile like marketing? Marketing is an excellent prize to get. If it is marketing, what reach does that company have? Some of them have award ceremonies. Okay, is that part of the prize package, or is that additional travel that you have to go to obtain the award? You really have to do your research because there are so many out there. Some are just out to make money. Some are actually legitimate, and there are some really high value awards out there. I don't know if the IPPEs are still a thing. There was the Independent Publishing Awards. Those used to be a big deal. I haven't heard much about them lately. Trying to think of some of the big ones that are coming out.
What's the one that was just running that I kept seeing posted on Facebook? Damn it, what was it? It was some kind of a paranormal or sci-fi.
The Hugo Awards, I think, and the Nebula Awards. Those are actual big name awards.
Oh, yeah, those are the big ones. This was one that I hadn't heard of before. It was God, it was a name that was similar to that, but it wasn't a big name. Dang it, what was it? See, I'll find it later. You know, like 2A, it won't be worth anything.
But the same thing goes
so
for
there's
clout.
Yes, they need more clout. So what do you two think about that? Are you going to be submitting your novel for any awards programs when you're finished with your editing?
I think so. I mean, I don't see why. Like,
Not.
what the heart? Yeah, like why not? It's either you you don't win. It's like, oh, okay, or you win, and then you have that thing to put on your book and to like, tell people, so then they want to buy your book.
And they get, and like Katie said, it might help with marketing and other things.
Yeah, so why not?
Sometimes the prize is just cash, which is always nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No one's going to say no to cash.
Yeah.
So one of the things
I'll tell you what.
Even in my seminars is budget. Those awards are those awards that you submit your book to will have an entrance fee. So that would go against your initial marketing budget. So you have to be sure which ones you really want to enter into and be okay that you pay this money if you don't win.
And if you budget for it, that's okay, because I mean, if you're submitting for awards and you say, okay, we've got $300 in our budget, and with that $300 we could submit to 20 different awards contests or however many different awards contests. That's okay. It's okay to have to pay an entrance fee sometimes, and not all legitimate companies you can just submit to for free, because it does take manpower to run those awards programs. But as long as you've got it in the budget, hell, do it. I mean, I wish on all my books I'd submitted them for stuff. If I'd had the money, I would have. But now looking back, it's like, if I hadn't been so impetuous, if I hadn't been impatient, I really could have maybe gathered a little bit more Well, clout. That could be our word for the day, Katie. We've used clout a couple times today.
I like that. Yeah, I like that as the word of the day. We'll just have to hashtag clout at the bottom.
Yes. Yeah.
Speaking of, awards that you can enter in that aren't going to break the budget, every time I publish a book, I always submit to Indie Tale magazine. What you do there is you submit your book for a review. And if you want them to put it in their magazine, it's a $20 fee. It used to be $12. They bumped it up to $20 now. And you can submit your cover as well. Once they review it, if you get, I think it's a 4-star or better review, you're automatically entered into their Roan Awards that happen every September. So for $20, you get a professional review from a magazine. You get your book submitted to their magazine and the cover for it. So you've got a link to your book. That's a little bit of marketing there. And you're entered into an award ceremony. That's pretty good for $20. I'll take that.
Are you guaranteed to get that review, or do you have to win the review slot?
For $20, you are submitting for a review. So you will get a review regardless. And because you paid the money, that review will go into their magazine, good, bad, or otherwise, with your book cover and the link to where they can buy your book. So that's what you're paying for. The entrance into the Roan Awards is based on how high your review is. And then from there, it's, whatever vetting that they have to do through the award ceremony to whittle it down to actual winners. And if you do win, and I did have a book that won one of those awards, you get a beautiful crystal statue.
Ooh.
And they do have a gala, big award ceremony that they do, because it's also attached to their Indie Scribe conference.
Ooh. Glad I'm taking notes. If you guys see me lean away, that's what I'm doing. I have my laptop next to me where the questions are, and I'm like, I'm going to forget this later. I'm just going to take notes.
That's the beauty of YouTube, though. You can always go back and rewatch the video.
Exactly.
True. I'll just, I don't know why I feel the need to do it now.
Hey, just, do what you need to do.
All right, so what's your next question then?
Let's see.
Let's do this one.
Sure.
Oh, okay. I'm not doing it. What do you guys wish you knew when you first started out indie publishing?
Oh, shit. Be patient.
I know that's like a long kind of answer to that, because I know when we started writing, there were so many things I wish we knew. Like beta readers was the longest time, had no idea that they existed. No one was telling us these things. We just kind of stumbled upon it. And kind of more of a business side, how do you fire friends? There were more of us. But then things happen. So that's kind of before we get published. It's always nice to ask people, what do you wish you knew when you first started?
Ooh, let me start. So I can get the easy ones, Katie. All right. So I've got 3 things. Develop a tribe or join your tribe online. Find the other authors. Find the other publishing professionals. It's easy to do on Facebook. There's a zillion groups. Join those groups. They're going to be a super big resource for you. Watch shows like this, because sometimes on occasion we have good things to say, good advice. I mean, you have to weed through all the crap, but know that you're going to spend money. You're not going to publish your book for nothing. You can, but it's going to be a failure. You're going to spend money. You're going to spend probably $1,000 at least just getting into it, between editing and cover design and some bare minimum marketing. So know that you're going to spend money, and then don't jump the gun on anything. Just be patient and wait for your editors, wait for your beta readers, wait for that feedback to come back, and then publish when you know it's done. Okay, Katie, now you go.
Marketing. I knew more about marketing when I started this, because that is the bane of my existence. It's like Jason said, you have to be patient. You have to not jump the gun on anything. You have to take each step slowly and carefully and be ready to put out the book that you feel passionate about. And that passion is going to show, but you have to take every step in the process, including the post-production marketing, which is the worst part.
Oh gosh.
We know too much about patience. We've been working on this book for going on how long? 5 years now. And it's still not done. And it's frustrating because it feels like it should be done, but I know it's not. And the stuff that we're doing now, I don't want to do it, but I know that that's what needs to be done. That's the most frustrating thing.
Yeah, the reason it's taken us long is kind of what I said earlier, that we were never told certain things, and we're dinguses who didn't just decide, let's do this thing called research. That's a great idea. So now we're just constantly playing catch up, like, oh yeah, we should have done this. Oh yeah, we should have done that. So
it's a lot of trial and error, though. Your first book is probably the hardest one you put out. It gets easier over time because you know the steps and you've made the mistakes. But yeah, the first one, definitely the hardest and takes the longest to do. And I'm glad that you guys are being patient with it.
Well, and have you put any consideration into how you're going to publish, whether you're going to submit to traditional publishers or small press publishers? Because I wish, looking back, and there's a lot of indies that feel differently about this, because we want to keep our royalties, we want to keep the money we make on it, but I wish that I had submitted to small presses or even bigger publishing houses when I first got started, and I didn't. Like I said, I wanted to write a novel. That was my goal, and I didn't care how it got done. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it myself. And I had a great friend who's also an author who walked me through how to do it, and I didn't look into publishing elsewhere, and I think that's a bummer. I think it would have been really cool to connect with a publisher that it could at least give me advice on things like marketing and editing, and say, hey, you're doing great here, but you're totally jacking this up. You can't do this. You can't just finish your book on Friday and hit publish on Monday and expect people to buy it. You've got there's a lot more research and planning that has to go into it. But what are you ladies doing? Are you looking at going straight self-publishing, or are you planning to submit it to some publishing houses?
we tried querying for an entire year. We queried like over 150 people, and we've got we actually tried really hard because we weren't comfortable with the whole idea of during certain parts of the steps by ourselves, but no one seemed to take the bait that is our book.
And we kind of talked about it a bit, and we kind of realized that we're not. We still have to think about like small publishers, but I think we're leaning more towards self-publishing because we realized that we do want that control, and the reason we were against it at first was because we didn't have confidence in ourselves to actually be able to do it. But now we feel that we have more confidence, and in a weird way, Authors in Training was kind of our we're kind of using it as a tool to help us with self-publishing because we're starting to build a platform. We've kind of used it as a way to connect with other authors, and it's kind of a trial, like a learning experience for marketing, like marketing for Authors in Training that we can use when we first published the book, that we had a bit of experience marketing, so we're not just shooting in the dark.
And we've been told that you have to market for yourself anyway. Even if you do traditional publishing, you have to do some of it yourself. So you're not really ever getting away from marketing, sadly. You just gotta kind of pick and choose what you want to do.
And we're not really in it to have that glory of my book is been traditionally published by one of the big five. Where we just want to publish a good book. That's kind of what our goal is with this. Is we want to put a book out there that people can read and you find it entertaining. So self-publishing does that for us.
Well, and I think that's a good step in the process. But I think that it's important to remember that creating a good book is really step one. And don't close yourself off to the other avenues, though, because if you write a good book that's entertaining, and you guys are really likable people, you have a good presence on social media, then there's nothing to stop you from pursuing other, even if they're small press publishers. Sometimes just having the publisher's name on the book can help you get into different stores and get into different signing events or cons. And so don't close yourself completely off to that, because writing a good book is number one. But just remember that once you do that, you have time to pursue these other things. You've been working on it for 5 years, so it's okay. I mean, you're clearly patient. It's okay to keep being patient. And I haven't read your book, obviously, because no one's sent it to me to beta read.
Well, I mean, after we finish these edits, getting more beta readers. So,
but I'll tell you what, we've had a handful of traditionally published authors on here who are published through Big Five publishers, and frustratingly, their stories are all kind of very atypical. It always seems to be that, well, I met someone here and then I sent them an email and next thing you knew, I had a 5-book publishing deal. And I'm like, well, shit, that's not going to happen with me. Okay. I'm not going to do that. I don't leave my house. All right. So,
some people are just born lucky, though.
Yeah.
We just heard about that, though. We were talking to G.S. Dunning. He's such a sweet man. We've read his, the first chapter of his first book on the show with his permission, and he loved it. So he sent us a pre-release copy of his third book. It was very sweet, and we did that on the show. But when we talked to him, he was mentioning how you got to go to cons and all these conventions and talk to them, apparently at the bar, because that's where they all hang out. And that's how you kind of get published, is you meet them there, win them over with your personality and your book, and then you shoot them an email. I was like, hey, I wish you'd told me that a year ago.
I'm not allowed to go to the bar and talk to people
Yeah,
anymore.
Katie. Yeah. Don't even bring up the bar with Katie, because what Katie will do is she'll meet the publisher and then call him names and yell at him and shit like that. Don't listen to Katie's advice on that. But that's a very good point. Schmoozing, extremely important. You have your game face on and just mingle with people. And remember that when you're talking to publishers, treat them like normal people. Don't treat them like you are a little ant and you're staring up at a giant. They're people. Just talk to them about normal people shit. And when the conversation gradually goes, so, well, what do you do? Be like, oh, I'm an author. I wrote this, and see where it goes from there. I haven't done that, but it seems like it would be a good idea.
But don't have 2 drinks and then call them names. It's not a good
Yes.
I feel there's a story behind this.
There is. Katie, why don't you tell us your story?
Nope.
You don't have to include any names.
Actually, I didn't call them any names.
We could do rhymes with.
They just screwed up my name. And you guys, well, Jason, I really have fun with people screwing with my name. But I was mad that I had been trying to contact this particular company for a while. And right after I introduced them and said my name, they screwed it up. And I made damn sure they knew how to say it.
Oh.
Well, and this was after she had been stalking him for 4 days at the convention, trying to get him to talk to her.
I had to get the balls up to talk to him, okay? I had 2 drinks and I didn't have an adult present to stop me.
Yes.
So only have 1 drink when talking to them.
That's right.
I'm probably blacklisted forever.
Gotta get that liquid courage.
Yeah, no, not a good combination for me.
I wish I had been there for that, because that would have really made my day.
You might have stopped me if you were there.
No, hell no, I wouldn't have.
Help, I need an adult.
I love a good train wreck. I'll just come along for the show.
That's okay. The whole night just went down from there because I won't say names, but there was another very big named author who was a jerk. And the people that I was with wanted a picture with him. And so I was like, okay, well, let's go do this. And I already, drank enough liquid courage. I didn't care. I walked up and he didn't do the just acknowledging our presence. We stood there for a while. And usually if somebody's standing there, you just give them a quick, hey, 1 second, I'm talking to these people. We had girls fawning all over him. So we stood there and we waited until the group I was with was kind of like, I guess we'll just go and leave. And again, me, liquid courage, didn't care. Already put my foot in my mouth once this evening. At the top of my lungs, these girls want pictures.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is why we don't bring Greek women to parties. What you can take from all that, though, is always be nice. always be nice to everyone you meet, no matter what. Just in general, shit, man. In general, I took some crap for that on Facebook not long ago, Katie, because I had posted something that was a little bit political in nature, and somebody else got riled up about it. I was like, my whole thing is just be as good as you can to as many people as you can. You know, I don't care about the money or the politics behind it. Just be a good person. It's not that difficult to do. Don't be a jerk. You know, and maybe nice guys sometimes finish last, but I sure don't think they always do. I think that we come in pretty fair some of the time. I don't know where that was going, Katie. Sorry.
I agree with you. Be genuine, be yourself, and hopefully you're a nice person, and respect people. You know, the author that was acting like a jerk to us because he wasn't even acknowledging our presence while we're standing there waiting to fawn all over him, couldn't give us 2 seconds to say, hey, you know, I'm talking here. Give me 1 second. I'll be done. Not even an acknowledgement. Don't be a jerk. And then people who've had drinks won't be a jerk back to you.
No, I need that.
You go.
That's like that's my motivational phrase for the day. Just don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk.
Oh, I always tell people that. Just like, you just be nice to people. It's amazing how far it'll take you just like as a person. Because when you're nice to people, they feel the need to be nice back. But I've heard so many times from like my friends, especially my mother, who's an engineer. She's nice to everyone. She knows everyone in the building department, which is where you go to like submit plans and look at them. And it has gotten her out of so many sticky situations, just knowing people and being nice back to them. They're just so willing to help. So yeah, I'm always saying, be nice to everyone. You never know where that could take you, like what opportunity that is.
Well,
and you know, being nice to people is always fun. So I don't know why you'd be rude.
well,
Unless you're drunk.
Some people get a kick out of that. Yeah. But no, and being nice is kind of half of the whole sales thing, because you got to be nice, but then you've also have to have a good sales pitch. And I don't have a good sales pitch. I don't do Comic-Cons or public speaking events, anything like that, because I can't sell. I don't sell well at all. I can be very nice. I can schmooze with people and get along with anyone, but I don't know how to press that sale. And we've had a number of wonderful authors on here that are great at that really shine at conventions. Is like, you know, I'll go to a convention and I'll sell everything just because I'm good at talking about it. I'm good at closing the deal. And I haven't gotten there yet. So that's something I really need to work on. But being nice and then learning how to sell a book is another important thing. You know, and Katie, how do you do a lot of, you know, person-to-person selling while you're at the cons, Katie?
Oh yeah, that's pretty much our whole day. I can't wait to teach you that when you come to Phoenix with us next year.
Are you guys going to go to Phoenix Comic-Con next year with your new release?
I don't know.
We should. I know Katie's been talking to us about Comic-Cons and everything, and I definitely want to go to that. It's just funny that you're like, I don't know how to sell the book, and I'm like, yeah, we don't even know how to get the summary out without being like, Jesus. Sometimes what we do is we write it down, and then we're just like, okay, hold on, and then we'll quickly look at it and be like, okay, I have the spark notes. We're good.
You guys are local, so I'll tell you this. There are 2 Comic-Cons coming to Vegas this year. Amazing Comic-Con comes every year, and it's actually, I believe, next weekend at the Las Vegas Convention Center. Authors go to that all the time. So go to view it and stop by the author booths and talk to them about how they sell their books at conventions. And then later this year, the same people who run Phoenix Comic-Con are bringing Vegas Fan Fusion in September. So it's their same Comic-Con style show later in this year. If you can, go to that one too as a research opportunity and see what authors show up there and how they talk about their books and what panels they have, because Phoenix does have a writer track program attached to their Comic-Con. So there are a lot of authors that go to it and give panel discussions. You could go all day and learn about craft of writing, learn about world building, learn about publishing. And they may bring that here to Vegas as well when they do their show later in September.
I'll have to do that.
Yeah.
It's worth going and checking out. And besides, Comic-Con's just fun anyways.
Yeah.
Never been to Comic-Con yet.
I haven't either. Phoenix will be my first. Although I have some friends that are trying to convince me to go to Chicago in August. But yeah, and Katie, weren't you trying to tell me that I should go to Detroit Comic-Con?
There is one in Detroit. You should go to it if it's close.
Yeah, and I was trying to tell you that you don't actually voluntarily go to Detroit. I mean, unless you want to die. It's where people go to die. Happiness, clean water. It goes there to die. But yeah. So I won't go to Detroit.
Go as a research experiment. Go and see what other authors are doing, and see if you could do the same thing.
But see, and that's the thing. We've been doing this show for what, like 16 years now, it seems like.
Feels like it.
I know the feeling.
We have all these wonderful authors on telling us about how they sell their books and how they make a great one-line pitch and how they approach people. And after all of that, I still don't feel like I can do that. I can
telling
go
you.
up and I can be really amiable. I can be really cool with people, but I don't know how to go from being your buddy to give me $10 for this book.
You never say give me $10 for this book. But between Jenna and I, we will show you the ropes. We were doing that with Jacob because he was his first year at a Comic-Con. He was boothing with us this year, and we were helping him every day to figure out how to move the conversation towards books and ways to attract people over. And one of my things is, be genuine. I love the costumes at Comic-Con. So that's my trigger point. When I see somebody walk by with a really cool costume, I'm like, oh my God, come here, let me get a picture with you, because their costumes are so good. And it shows them appreciation of the effort they put into their costume, and it opens the lines of communication.
I feel like that with tattoos. I see somebody with good tattoos, and I like to go up and talk to them about it. Yeah.
So see, there you go. You just find your opener, but it's got to be genuine. You can't fake it. You have to actually reach out to somebody on the same level, and then you can come, have talks with them. I will sometimes spend an hour talking Doctor Who with somebody at the booth instead of selling books, but I have a great time doing it. And, eventually they might take a card and walk away, or maybe they say, oh, by the way, is this your book? Either way, I've had a great time. They've had a good time.
Now, do you advocate for going in costume to the Comic-Cons?
I typically dress up one day.
Okay.
That sounds fair. We go to the Renaissance Fair that comes here, and we plan like what days we're going and what we're wearing, because it requires different level of effort, and it's always so hot. Even it's October, ridiculously hot, but it's fun to go. But definitely plan ahead.
And it adds to the fun, because you can take pictures with people if you're in a costume. Everybody at Comic-Con loves to just take pictures of the different cosplay out there. So it's a great way to mix and mingle with people. I think I'm supposed to be Rocket Raccoon next time, so I really have to step up the cosplay game.
Hey, I'm one of those people that are just awkward.
What's that?
Oh, I just said I'm one of those people that are just awkward. And so I want to take a picture with you, but I'm too afraid to come up. So I'm just like, should I just take a picture from a distance and be creepy, or?
Oh, I'm obnoxious. I shout at people across the way. I'm like, I love your costume.
Oh man, I don't know if I can. I don't know how I'm going to be able to sit next to you.
and one of the things we were talking about doing was cosplay bingo, which I need to figure out the logistics of it. But the idea was you get a bingo sheet and you've got different costumes on there, and you give it to people to play, and they have to take a selfie with somebody in that costume and bring it back. If they get the blackout on the board, you give them a prize. We don't really know what the prize is going to be yet, but it would be a great way to interact with people who love cosplay just as much as you.
That's good. I like that a lot, Katie. I'll stick yeah, I like that a lot. That's a good idea. See, you're so smart, Katie. Ideas and stuff. That's why
at least someone thinks I am.
We do.
Convinced one. Now I just have to do the rest of the people.
All right, well, ladies, we are kind of dwindling on the amount of time that we have left. We didn't get too seriously derailed today, Katie. I felt like we actually talked about things that had something to do with writing today, whereas last week was depression the whole night. And I was like, oh man, we didn't talk about writing tonight. That was kind of a bummer. So, ladies, when do you plan to release your novel? Do you have an expected month or year that you're shooting for?
If we're not quite sure about that. Last time we kind of calculated it was going to be like end of this year, but because we had some new edits that we didn't plan for because we realized about like a huge plot hole we had to fix. I imagine it might be sometime next year. Yeah, it's not too far off. We can see the end.
Is this going to be young adult?
No, it's definitely adult. It's a I guess we could call it a mystery low fantasy. Emphasis on the low fantasy because there's no magic or creatures or anything, but it does take place in another world. But I think we focus more on the mystery part.
Okay, interesting. A lot of suspense, or
yeah, we hope so.
Well, we hope so. We have changed so much about the book. That's why we're kind of quiet, because sometimes we talk about the book and it's like, wait, is that still in there? Ironically. And I know I'm quiet because I am notorious for giving spoilers away.
She is.
So I'm just like, I'll just let Haley talk about it. Yeah. But yeah, we are focusing a lot on mystery, and there's a lot of suspenseful moments.
And it gets kind of dark.
Oh, right.
Well,
you guys seem
we'll
so
check
sweet,
back in
though.
with you a little bit later this year and see if you're any closer to publishing.
Oh yeah,
That'd be awesome.
And make sure that one of you sends me a copy of this to check out, because I'm interested. You are very guarded in how you're talking about it, so I'm really interested to see what this book is like. And perhaps at that time, maybe if we can get a copy of it, an advanced copy, we could read it and then chat a little bit about it on the show.
That'd be amazing. I'm glad that we've convinced you that our book is really good. that means we're in the right direction.
Well, it's just so mysterious. I feel like I know nothing about it.
And just a note for Jason as a beta reader, argue with everything he says. He loves that.
Oh, Jesus. You know, I'll tell you what. I don't beta read for Katie anymore because she asks for all this advice, and then I give it to her, and then she completely ignores it. Like no. Headlights don't have fluid, Katie. No, well, in my world they do. Okay, if you're in Greece, headlights have fluid in them. All right. Oh yeah.
Always fun.
All right, Katie. Well, you want to roll us out tonight?
Yeah, thank you, ladies, for joining us. We put a link in the description of the video down below so that our viewers can find your podcast. And we hope to catch up with you later this year and see how you're doing on your publishing journey.
Thank you. We definitely will be further along. I am pushing for that. It's going to happen.
I'm determined.
And since you guys are local, I'll definitely be checking in with you to see how you're doing. And hopefully we'll run into each other at some of the local events.
Oh, yeah. For sure the book festival in October.
Oh, that's right. They just sent out notices for if you want to get table space. I need to fill those out. So that's in October. Usually the second weekend of October is when the Las Vegas Book Festival happens, and it is in downtown. It's a really fun convention. So any of our viewers listening, if you're local to Vegas, plan on going to that. October is a pretty good time of the year. It's not too hot. So it should be a fun day out.
We also like to live stream the book festival. We've been doing it for, I think, 2 years now, and we just go to tables and we always just have a mini Q&A with them, and we put it on Twitter. And sometimes if we get permission, we live stream the panel. So if you can't come, that works too.
Sounds
Definitely
awesome.
worth checking out. So that's it for this week's show. Guys, remember to like and subscribe to our channel. Please share us far and wide on social media. And we will be back next week with more authors to introduce you to and more fun topics for Jason to derail for us. Bye, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.